Hey again, everybody. Jim Faulkner here again. You probably just watched my video demonstrating the team profile generator from the user perspective, so you can see what the finished product looked like. Wanted to take a couple of minutes and just talk to you a little bit about all of the code behind it. So a few different JavaScript files we use. Going to talk about the smaller ones first, and you'll see how they all fit into the larger picture here at the end. So we start up here. We create a class for employees, and that is where we store all of the information that is the same regardless of job title. So name, employee ID, and email lives here in this constructor. And then we're going to export that as a module to be used for the engineer, intern, and manager subclasses. Three separate files, only going to talk about engineer because they're all very, very similar. So you can see it's an extension of employee. The only thing different we really added here was we added their GitHub into the constructor so that that will show up once we're actually rendering their information into an actual employee profile. And speaking of rendering, that's what we're going to talk about next. So that starts up here, and you can see we've got an empty array entitled HTML, and we're pushing employees, an array of employee objects into this empty array. And you can see we do manager first and intern last, and that's how we're able to maintain the content on the page in terms of the manager being at the top of the page and all of the interns being on the bottom of the page. Uh, you saw the get name, get role, get email functions for the class and subclass pages right there, and that is how we get all of the actual information to this file to be rendered into the HTML file. So that's the same for manager, engineer, and intern. And then we're also rendering this main page here, which is the HTML content that stays the same no matter what. So that's really just that's the page header and things like that. That renders that into this main team file here in the output folder that you saw in my last example. And you'll also see here there are a few different templates. So we basically end this here with a container, and then we're going to populate all the team stuff into here. And what that means is that you could probably tell by the layout of the page, each team member has their own row with a few different columns and sub rows contained there within. So that's how we get everything rendered. And then we're going to export that into this main app file, uh, which is where really all of the work is done and where everything happens on the user end. So we kick everything on this page off with this employee questions function. And that's where we ask all of the questions that are universal, again, regardless of job title. So name, ID, email, and then at the end of that, we're going to have a question that asks their role that you probably remember. Based off of how that is answered by the user really dictates where we go. So I've got another line of prompts here. And all that's really doing is asking the question to get the information that's specific to a particular role, whether that's a GitHub account or a school or an office number, depending on job title. And after that, we're going to ask if we want to add anyone else. Regardless of how that question is answered, a couple of things are going to happen. So, of course, we're going to create the employee object, and that's either going to be an engineer or an intern or a manager, and then it's going to be pushed into this team array, which you see right here on line 13 was originally empty, and that, of course, will be full with as many employees as it needs to be by the time we're finished. So if the user wants to add someone else, then we're going to just start back at the beginning with the first line of questions like you saw in the last example. If not, then we're going to build the team using this build team function right here. And you see it looks really similar for interns and managers also. And all this build team function is really doing is rendering this array that I created with all of the employees and writing the file to the team HTML folder in the or team HTML file, excuse me, in the output folder. And that's really all there is to it. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later.